5 sinister true horror stories revealed this summer. Terrifying secrets of the cursed and haunted in Crestwood Hills, a seemingly perfect suburb. Whispers of dread began to slither through the air. Residents hurried from their cars, glancing over their shoulders, as shadows twisted beneath their porches. The summer sun blazed down on manicured lawns, but an inexplicable chill settled over the neighborhood. Children, once free to roam and play, now clung to their mothers' sides, wide-eyed and fearful. Rumors of disappearances had become the hot topic in the local coffee shop, the once bustling conversations now replaced by panic-laden murmurs. "Did you hear about the Johnson's boy? He just vanished without a trace." A shiver raced down Sarah's spine as she listened to her neighbors. As she walked home from a long shift in the emergency room, tired and slightly numb, she thought over the news reports that made her blood run cold. Just paranoia, she told herself, shoving the worry deep inside. Crestwood Hills had always been a safe haven until now. But then came Mr. Thompson, the charming community leader whose gaze lingered a heartbeat too long. He had taken a liking to her daughter, Lily, showering her with gifts that felt slightly too generous for comfort. A twinge of something unsettling thrummed beneath his polite smile. It was a feeling Sarah couldn't shake. One evening, while tending to their backyard, she discovered peculiar symbols scratched into the dirt. Her heart raced as the shapes twisted in her mind. They looked ancient, sinister. She barely managed to stifle her rising dread. Just some kids messing around, she thought, but doubt gnawed at her. The symbols spoke of a hidden darkness lurking just below the surface of their cozy suburb. Days turned into weeks, and Lily's laughter began to fade, often replaced by strange conversations with Mr. Thompson. Was he distracting her? Each time Sarah glanced outside, the old man and her daughter would be sharing some secret, and an icy dread loomed in Sarah's heart. The air felt thick, alive with foreboding. Then, one thunderous night, the power flickered and went dark. The silence grew tangible, a suffocating weight pressing against her chest. From her window, she saw the neighbors gathering, each face painted with fear, their nervous chatter unable to disguise the raw tension that hung thick in the air. Then, a scream shattered the night, a frantic mother searching for her lost son. Chaos erupted. Voices shouted, desperate and wild, as fear seeped deeper into their community. Sarah's heart pounded, pulsing against her ribcage like a caged animal. Within the throng, she spotted Mr. Thompson leading Lily away, his smile too wide and gleaming, cold and calculating. Time slowed as panic took over her body. "No!" she cried, lunging through the crowd. Just as her fingers nearly touched her daughter, shadowy figures emerged from the woods, dark and menacing. Eyes widening, she turned back to face Mr. Thompson, his charm dissolving into a grotesque expression. What was he? An ancient predator? A puppet of the evil spirit that had entwined itself with their community? Her breath caught as she prepared for a confrontation, feeling the weight of generations bearing down on her. The need to protect her daughter surged through her, but she knew this wasn't just about her anymore. Was she too late, standing on the edge of wickedness that had always been part of their town? The answers felt just out of reach, and darkness wrapped around her like a shroud. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She locked eyes with Lily, who hesitated between innocence and danger. The arrival of the shadow figures intensified an ancient evil hovering above them. Sarah steeled herself, aware that she must uncover the truth before the night claimed more than just her daughter. But as she stood amid chaos, she realized she had invited the dark curse into their lives, and now, the bond they shared felt like the only weapon she had against the encroaching horror. Would she be able to fight back, or would the malevolence prove too strong? The darkness pressed down, thickening the air as Sarah took a step forward, fueled by desperation. The shadows quivered, shapes pulsating like a living entity, brushing against her skin with icy fingers. Mr. Thompson's smile had twisted into a grimace, revealing yellowed teeth, sharp and glistening under the dim light of the street lamps. "Leave her be!" Sarah screamed, her voice raw and trembling. The gathering crowd split, leaving her a path toward her daughter, but the old man held Lily tight, eyes gleaming with an almost predatory delight. "It's too late for that," Mr. Thompson sneered, tilting his head in a mocking gesture, the shadows behind him shifting like a pack of wolves ready to pounce. The ceremony must continue. Fear and confusion clouded Lily's innocent eyes as she stood caught between two worlds, one of safety and laughter, the other steeped in danger and dread. The rest of Crestwood Hills seemed to fade into silence. Were they watching? Why weren't they helping? Anxiety clawed at Sarah's chest as she struggled against the invisible gravity pulling her back. "Lily, come to me. Please!" But Mr. Thompson simply laughed, a low sound vibrating from deep within his throat, a sound that filled the air with a dark promise. A rush of anger surged through Sarah, overwhelming her fear. She lunged, desperate to grab her daughter, but it was as if the shadows conspired against her, swallowing her entire. She stumbled, unsteady, panic igniting her senses. Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled. An unnatural wind swept through the crowd, howls of voices echoing around her. The foliage from the surrounding woods rustled violently, as though something was awakening, something ancient and immense. Sarah could hear whispers, incoherent but charged with malice. She pressed her palms to her ears, but the sound burrowed deeper into her psyche. Each breath felt like inhaling shards of glass. "Demon!" Someone shouted from the crowd, pointing a trembling finger at Mr. Thompson. The words shattered the dreadful stillness. Gasps erupted around her as some took a step back, eyes wide with terror. Others watched, transfixed, their faces betraying both fear and a strange curiosity. Were they complicit in this? Had they all been led into Mr. Thompson's web? In that moment, the darkness twisted, and the shadows surged forward, terrifying silhouettes erupting from inky pockets of night. One figure lunged at Sarah, who instinctively raised her arms to shield herself, but she felt a different force guiding her, the bond with her daughter igniting an instinct to protect. "Lily!" she shrieked. With sudden clarity, she took a breath, the voices ringing like a siren, instructing her. She felt the pride of motherhood flood through her, overwhelming any sense of dread. With a fierce yell, she charged at Mr. Thompson, every ounce of protection amplified. "I will not let you have her!" As she pushed against the malevolent force, it roared back, darkness clawing at her, trying to snuff her out. Sarah realized the ceremony was more than a mere ritual. It was a gathering of malevolent spirits hungry for souls. With her heart racing against the din, she screamed for Lily again, forcing her way through the chaos. She saw Mr. Thompson falter, something in him cracking under the sudden pressure of her defiance. But before she could reach her daughter, the shadows reacted, twisting like serpents, a void eager to consume all. Just then, a blinding flash of light burst through the darkness. A figure emerged from the woods, cloaked in light, cutting through the shadows like a sword through flesh. As it stepped closer, Sarah's heart raced faster, blending hope with fear. Was this a savior or another trick to ensnare them in the growing tide of terror? The crowd gasped, uncertainty thrumming in the air, waiting for someone to lead them. But who was this figure, and could it stand against the wretched force enveloping Crestwood Hills? "Lily, hold on!" Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. But time was running out. What awaited them next? The figure stepped forward, its presence igniting a flicker of hope that clashed violently with the surrounding dread. The light was unnatural, bathing everything in a cold glow. Sarah squinted, trying to discern the features cloaked under the glow. With every step, the shadows recoiled as if underwater. "Stay back!" Mr. Thompson roared, his voice serrated and furious. The sinister grin melted from his face, replaced by an enraged grimace. Dark energy crackled around him, tendrils lashing out like wild snakes, eager to reclaim the space. In that instant, Sarah's resolve surged. "Lily!" she cried again, But the cry felt smaller, swallowed by the malevolent force thickening around them. The woods seemed to echo her desperation, branches snapping as if the trees themselves were shrieking against the darkness. Whatever shield the figure wielded, it was fragile. The sinister wind swirled, rattling through the crowd, pulling at their sanity. Whispers morphed into anguished wails. "Help us, save us," someone begged. A voice Sarah recognized: Betty Johnson, the kindly old woman who used to bring her cookies at Halloween. The others were not merely witnesses. They were trapped in a slow-motion dance of terror, fear gripping their hearts. They might be complicit. What had they all seen before? The light-cloaked figure pressed on, drawing nearer to Mr. Thompson, who seemed to absorb the shadows, growing taller, more monstrous. With each short breath, Sarah could feel her pulse hammering. Was this hope, or just another deception? "Do you believe you can stop me?" Thompson spat, voice dripping with malicious laughter. "They will follow my call, just like your daughter." He tightened his grip on Lily, who remained wide-eyed and trembling, lost in the chaos. "Let her go." The words shot from Sarah's lips, fueled by sheer fury and desperation. The figure paused, eyes locking onto Sarah. In that instant, the chaos around them froze, a breath held at the edge of an abyss. "You must choose," it said, the voice resonating with ancient echoes. "Your daughter or the town, but be warned, darkness cannot be held forever." The choice loomed over Sarah. The weight of responsibility settled like a stone in her gut. Could she trust this vision of light? Was it a trick, or was salvation buried somewhere in those words? The shadows rustled eagerly, brushing against her legs, testing her resolve. The choice ignited a deep dread, an unspeakable fear of loss. "Sarah!" Lily's small voice sliced through the tension, clear and piercing. "Help me!" But the town loomed larger in Sarah's mind. Memories of laughter and warmth invaded her thoughts, combined with haunting echoes of fear. Could she sacrifice the safety of others for the sake of one? The air shimmered with anticipation, the dark energy buzzing like a swarm of angry bees. The crowd held its breath, confusion and terror writ large on their faces. As the figure edged closer, the ground trembled beneath Sarah's feet. The walls of reality felt like they were crumbling, unveiling something far darker hidden beneath. She stilled, considering her next move carefully. A sudden cry erupted from the old man. "Fool! They will feast and you will suffer!" He released a piercing howl that echoed in the night, the shadows thickening in response, waiting, hungry. The choice haunted her again: would she defy her instincts for the girl she loved? Or brave the storm to protect the community around her? In that silent moment, the darkness lurched forward, and Sarah saw a glint, a flash of steel hidden beneath the cloak of light. "What is that?" she thought, a shiver running down her spine. The shadow screamed in pain, and somehow, she sensed it was tied to her fate. The figure stood there, resolute. And in that chaos, one question lingered in the air, sharp and urgent: what would Sarah do when the moment arrived? A flash. A scream. The answers were buried deep in the darkness, and they were waiting. The ground shook violently, sending ripples through the crowd. Sarah stumbled back, instinctively reaching out as if she could pull Lily safely into her arms. The ghostly light flickered, pulsating like a beating heart, illuminating Mr. Thompson's twisted face, a gallows of cruel delight. "Let her go!" The words tore from Sarah, each syllable ignited by burning desperation. The crowd clung to her voice, urging her with their multitude of silent pleas. They weren't just passive bystanders anymore. They were a mass of raw fear, waiting for someone to make a choice that might shatter the spell binding them. Thompson's grip tightened around Lily's wrist, twisting and relentless. The light dimmed dangerously, and the shadows coiled tighter, as if anticipating a feast. "You think you can save her?" He laughed, a low, mocking sound that sent chills racing down Sarah's spine. "You're too late." With a swift movement, the figure reached out a glowing hand, aiming toward Mr. Thompson. Shadows shrieked in protest, recoiling as the warmth of the light carved a path through the darkness. An unearthly scream echoed, and something fluttered behind the figure, a glimpse of wings or talons, twisting and turning, desperate to escape. "What is that?" Sarah's heart raced. The monster inside of her, the one that insisted on survival, screamed out that they needed to act, to decide. But which path led to salvation? Choose. The figure's voice thundered through the air, shaking the branches above. Your daughter or the town's sin soaked in innocent blood. Lily's eyes widened, a mix of fear and hope sparkling with tears. Mom, please help me. Her voice trembled, pulling at the strings of Sarah's heart, each plea ringing out like a bell in the night. The endless swarm of souls cloaked in darkness writhed and whispered around her. Don't choose her. She's lost, she always has been, they cooed, their voices seductive, enticing, swirling through Sarah's mind like wind-catching leaves. No! Sarah roared back, internal chaos roaring like a tempest. How could they say that? This was her child. The vulnerability in Lily's small frame only amplified the weight of her decision. The figure shifted closer, illuminating abhorrent truths buried deep in Sarah's past, the spirits of townspeople lost, consumed by their own darkness. She could see their faces twisted in agony, their eyes pleading for release, and it struck her like ice water. What if the darkness Thompson controls is born from them? Her thoughts slipped through the fractures of her panic, illuminating possibilities. What if I can break his hold? Enough! Thompson shouted, his anger colliding with the stark light. You dare defy me? His shadowy form surged forward, energy crackling like electricity. Sarah! The figure called, a haunting lull whispering for her to act. You must wield the light against him to save all. Dread coursed through her veins. Could she? Could she turn this power on the very man she'd always known? Trust mingled with desperation, yet she felt the weight of the dark spirits press into her, threatening to swallow her whole. Make your choice. The figure commanded again, thrusting the decision harshly back into her hands. The earth shuddered, the icy wind stole her breath. Lily or them? Time stretched thin, thickening the air. Everything spiraled around her, caught in a frozen stillness, the abyss yawning open to receive her. In that breathless moment, she grasped at the steel glint, feeling its pulse align with her own. It was more than a weapon, it was an echo of hope. But could she wield it without losing herself? The shadows howled in anticipation, awaiting the inevitable plunge into darkness. Despair and courage clashed within her, and as she steadied herself, she knew the moment to act was breathing down her neck. Would she rise like the figure in the glow, or fall consumed by shadows, haunted by choices unresolved? The answer loomed ahead, darkness and light seemingly intertwined, and then Sarah took a step forward, ready to unleash whatever force was hidden within her grasp. What lay ahead would change everything. Would the light truly conquer the dark, or was the end already written in the shadows? Sarah's heart thundered as she stepped forward. The moment she crossed the threshold of light, the ground beneath her felt like it might give way. She steadied herself, feeling the cool steel of the weapon ready in her hands. I will save her! She screamed, her voice slicing through the chaos like a blade. Mr. Thompson's laughter roared like a wild storm, a sound tinged with madness. You think you can save her? You lay waste to everything. The shadows around him twisted, growing fangs and talons, lunging as if to claim what was theirs. Mom! Please! Lily's voice cracked. Chained by terror, she writhed against the unyielding grip. Desperation surged through Sarah as she met Lily's pleading gaze, but the swamp of darkness snaked around them, muffling the world outside. No! The figure surged closer, radiant and fierce. You hold the light, Sarah. You have the strength to end this. But the shadows entwined tighter, creeping into Sarah's mind like vines choked with thorns. You don't know what's in you, they whispered. You could lose her, or worse, silence. Sarah bellowed. Her voice roared like a wildfire, scattering the whispers of doubt. She had come too far, and this was the moment to reclaim everything she had lost. Without waiting, she lunged forward, the weapon gripped tight in her hands. The glow intensified, brightening the scene around them. The darkness flinched, retracting like a wound. Feel it, Sarah. Use it! The figure implored, its voice echoing above the cacophony around her. She directed the weapon's light towards Thompson, fury and compassion boiling inside her. At that moment, she spotted flickering memories around him, faces of the townsfolk twisted in despair. They flashed like shards of glass, reminding her of the joy and chaos in their town before the shadows took hold. They've suffered enough, she screamed, defiance hardening her resolve. With a thrust, she unleashed the light, powerful and pure, shooting toward Thompson. It struck him, illuminating the twisted grin on his face. For a heartbeat, the light enveloped him, and Sarah felt the pull of ancient pain break free, a wailing echo that filled the air. A tempest of souls swirled, their cries mingling with Thompson's terrified shriek as the light pulsed like a heartbeat. The shadows convulsed violently, seemingly alive with raw energy. "No! You can't erase us!" they shrieked, a chorus filled with rage and despair. As the blinding beam engulfed Thompson, pieces of him shattered like glass, revealing the tortured faces of those he had consumed. But as the light expanded, a thick mist enveloped Sarah, disorienting her. Her heart raced, and the very fabric of reality seemed to shift, the shadows clawing their way back from the depths. "Sarah!" The figure's shout sliced through the darkness. "Hold on! Push through!" Breathless, Sarah fought against the tide of shadows creeping back. But in their chaotic retreat, she noticed a new form emerging. It shimmered amidst the transparent, writhing masses of familiar shape. "Mom!" Lily's voice, fragile and wavering, reached through the murk. "I'm scared." Fear gripped Sarah. Time slowed. The shadows were still there, swirling, like a dark ocean about to swallow her whole. "No!" she gasped. The figure next to her shimmered, its form changing as if weighed down by the dark energies. "Trust yourself. You can save Lily and stop him." With the last reserves of her strength, she surged forward. Would this be enough to pierce the heart of the darkness? Was she truly powerful enough to break the spell? The shadows howled in fury, clawing at her sanity as she hurled herself into the blinding light, aiming to reclaim her daughter, to shatter the chains binding them in this cursed web. Would the light consume them both, or push back the encroaching night? Everything hung in the balance, and as her world narrowed to that single point of focus, she realized she had made her choice. But at what cost? A blinding surge engulfed Sarah, slamming into her like a wave. The shadows shrieked and recoiled, but their dark tendrils snaked back, tangling around her feet. She felt the cold grip press against her ankles, an icy reminder that they were still there, lurking, ready to drag her under. "Lily!" Sarah shouted, her voice trembling with urgency. The mist around her thickened, swirling with the cries of countless souls, their wails intertwining in a cacophony that drowned her confidence. "I'm coming!" She strained to pierce through the mist, focusing on her daughter's shimmering shape. Lily was trapped within the cold grip of the shadows, her small body bound to a spectral altar formed by the twisted branches and dark roots that clawed at her. Each pulse of light sent ripples through the dark, but not enough to shatter her daughter's prison entirely. "Trust the light," the radiant figure urged her, its voice melodic but strained. It swirled beside Sarah, holding a fragment of the radiant energy that fought against the darkness, urging her to harness the courage within. With a sob of determination, Sarah raised the weapon high, channeling everything she had into the beam. The light flared, scattering shadows like a sun-breaking dawn, illuminating the faceless specters that hungrily clawed for her. They twisted, trying to merge back into the shadows, but the beam ripped through, catching them off guard. "Don't look away!" the figure cried. "You are stronger than they know." As Sarah pressed forward, she could feel her body shaking, a raw panic clawing at her heart. Doubt seeped through the cracks of her resolve, but she pressed on. With each step, she could see Lily's face, pale and terrified amidst the shadows. Fighting against the pull of despair, Sarah let the light cascade around her, calling it forth like a plea thrown into a storm. "Mom, help me!" Lily's voice was a plea, fragile and thin, barely escaping the murky grip of the shadows. Each word ignited Sarah's stubbornness. "You want to take her!" Sarah roared, channeling her fear into strength. She aimed at the chains binding Lily, feeling power surging through her like electricity. The weapon blazed fiercely, bursting forth a white-hot light that shook the very essence of darkness. A blinding flash erupted. For an instant, everything froze, the air electric with the promise of change. Shadows screeched, their once provocative gestures now frantic pleas for retreat as they dissolved in the stark brilliance. "I can't hold it!" the figure cried, flickering with intensity. Shadows reformed in their anguished struggle, attempting to encircle Sarah and her daughter again. But the light had pushed through them, igniting the very air, pushing back the darkness that wanted to swallow them whole. The chains binding Lily erupted in a shimmer of chain smoke, and Sarah felt her daughter's warmth pressing against her, the breath she both feared and longed for. "Mom!" Lily cried out, joy now mingled with panic. Sarah reached for her, desperation twisting her heart. But even as fingers grazed each other, the shadows lurked on the edges, stacking upon themselves, colossal and insatiable. "No!" Sarah cried, feeling the cold grit of dread creeping back. "Stay with me!" But as her fingers slipped away, the brightness that had engulfed them began to wane. The shadows roared back, climbing up Sarah's legs, weighing her down, whispering promises of despair. It was not just shadows. Mr. Thompson's laughter echoed, cheerful, sinister, casting doubt as it twisted through the air. "Let her go, Sarah! You can't defy me!" "Enough!" Sarah gasped. With raw fury and desperation, she steadied the weapon, focusing on the core of the shadows, the dark heart tethering them all to this horror. But time was running thin. The shadows squeezed tighter around her, clawing at her sanity. She could only hold on a moment longer before what? The question thumped in her heart like a drum. Was this enough to end everything? Would the light prevail, or would it drown in despair, as the space around her collapsed into chaos once more? Sarah knew she was on the edge of a final decision. But deep within, the shadows regrouped, and she felt the chilling grip of uncertainty ensnaring them all. Would the darkness reclaim its prize? The shadows roared louder, weaving through the air like living things, shrieking in rage and desperation. Sarah's heart raced, each pulse drowning out the frantic whispers. The feeling of the cold claws tightening around her legs made her breath hitch, a solid fear squeezing her chest. She had to fight, she had to keep going. "Lily, hold on!" she shouted, her voice more a plea than a command. She felt the weight of time collapsing upon her, each second echoing with a deafening urgency. The radiant figure flickered beside her, its glow dimming as it strained against the shadowy onslaught. "Focus, Sarah! You must believe!" But how could she believe when every dreadful laugh of Mr. Thompson rang in her ears? The shadows pulsed, forming shapes that twisted mockingly around her, reflecting her deepest fears. Images of a suffocating darkness overwhelmed her, the loss of her daughter, the impending despair. "Get out of my head!" she screamed, swinging the weapon wildly, trying to scatter the shadows. They hissed and shrieked, recoiling from the light, but their numbers surged and coiled back, relentless as they encroached on her sanity. Every whisper fed her doubt. "You can't win. You won't save her." Her lips trembled as she fought against the rising tide of terror. Yet even as the shrieks intensified, she pushed the fear aside, channeling every ounce of love and desperation for Lily back into the weapon. Together, she whispered to the figure, feeling its flickering energy pulse in rhythm to her own fury. "Now!" the figure commanded, rallying what remained of its light. Sarah took a deep breath, the air thick with dread, and aimed once more at the core of the shadows. "You won't take my daughter! You won't take her!" With a chant, she unleashed a searing beam of light through the dark, illuminating the twisted landscape like a bolt of lightning cleaving through the stormy sky. The shadows quaked and recoiled, burning screams filling the air. They disintegrated, their features gnashing in fury, desperate to flee the radiant wrath. But just as hope began to rise, something changed. With a surge, a wall of shadows erupted from the ground, towering like a black mountain. It swallowed the light, snuffing it out in an instant. Sarah stumbled back, her heart plummeting. "No, no, no!" She choked on the words, panic surging through her veins as icy fingers tightened around her throat. The shadows began to creep up her arms, a paralyzing grip, and the despair swallowed her voice. "Lily! Where are you?" But there was no answer. In that terrifying silence, as shadows battered against her mind like a storm, she felt a dark whisper cut through the turmoil. "You never had a choice, Sarah. She belongs to us." It was Mr. Thompson's voice, silky and taunting, infecting her thoughts. Just when she thought she'd succumb to the despair, a thought flickered in the recesses of her mind. What if the light hadn't failed? What if it merely transformed? A gasp slipped through her lips as she remembered the warmth that had touched her heart, the love she felt for her daughter. "Lily!" she shouted, desperation igniting anew. "I'm coming! I will fight until my last breath." With that surge of determination, she pressed her palms against the darkness. The shadows writhed, a liquid black thing morphing around her will, testing her resolve. Suddenly, she felt a jolt and echo of Lily's spirit buzzing like electricity off her fingertips. In that moment, could the light bloom from within? Could love truly be the answer? As the battle raged, and shadows drew ever closer, Sarah realized the stakes had never been higher. She had to make a daunting choice, and right then, it all hung in the balance. Would she fight alongside the light or drown in the dark? The shadows loomed larger, the question suspended in the air like a noose tightening around her neck. Would they take everything from her, or would she seize the chance to save Lily? The shadows pulsed, their malignant energy swelling like a beast preparing to strike. Sarah's heart raced, each thump sending a ripple of dread through her body. She could feel the darkness breathing, hungry and relentless, wrapping around her like chains. "Lily!" The name clawed at her throat, desperation battling fear. She pressed forward, her palms glowing fiercely against the encroaching darkness. "I won't let you take her!" The shadows hissed, a cacophony of voices merging into a single, cruel hum. "Love can't protect you, Sarah. Your heart is weak!" They shrieked, and in response, the air thickened with their chilling breath. Summoning every ounce of strength, Sarah shut her eyes tightly, flooding her mind with images of Lily, their last picnic in the park, her laughter ringing like bells, and the warmth of her tiny hand in hers. She had to believe. Focus. The radiant figure buzzed beside her, fighting through the shadows clamoring. Its form flickered, and with every heartbeat, the shadows pressed closer, eager to swallow its light. "Together," Sarah whispered. She opened her eyes, now brighter and sharper than before. "Together." With renewed purpose, she lifted her weapon again, aiming it toward the heart of the black mass. A searing intensity filled her. The love she felt for her daughter radiated outward, coursing like wildfire through her veins. "You'll regret this," she roared, unleashing a fresh burst of brilliance. Light battled darkness as the beams sliced through the shadows. The hissing grew sharper, more frantic, as the light threatened to tear apart the very fabric of the shadow's existence. They twisted and shrieked, struggling against the burning white glow, but then, it happened. The shadows recoiled, but in their retreat, they revealed something beneath a silhouette cloaked in darkness. A figure formed, one that made her blood run cold. Mr. Thompson, his eyes gleaming like shards of broken glass, grinned at her from within that swirling void. "You think you can fight me with love? How quaint," he taunted. His presence twisted the atmosphere, a palpable weight drenching Sarah in fear. The light flickered, losing its strength in the face of his sinister allure. "You've lost before you've even begun, or have you forgotten how to trust?" he goaded, his voice wrapping around her thoughts like vine roots strangling a tree. "Trust?" Sarah echoed, bewildered. She had always trusted her instincts, her heart. But now, doubt seeped into her resolve. What if he was right? What if her love wasn't enough? And then she felt it, a pulse of energy from the hidden depths of her heart. It whispered secrets of strength, of resilience. She remembered how every syllable of "mommy" from Lily charged her with hope. In that clarity, she gathered herself, squaring her shoulders against the darkness. "Sarah!" the figure shouted, urging her on. "Remember your purpose." With a fierce cry, she lunged forward. "I will save my daughter!" The shadows writhed in agony, retreating before her unstoppable force. But Mr. Thompson's laughter echoed a sinister promise that echoed in Sarah's mind. This is just the beginning. The ground trembled beneath her as fissures opened, leaving the darkness a gaping maw filled with unseen horrors. The vulnerability of her position struck her like a rogue wave, drowning her defiance. As she teetered on the edge, fully aware of the abyss before her, despair clawed at her heart again. "Lily!" she screamed, realizing she stood at a precipice of choices. Was it truly love that would save her, or would the shadows consume her completely? The darkness whispered sweet lies, enticing and seductive, dragging her closer to the edge. In that moment, she had to choose: would she dive deeper into the light, or would she succumb to the comforting embrace of the dark? As her breath quickened, Sarah realized the weight of that decision would change everything. Would she embrace the unknown, or shatter before Mr. Thompson's wicked laugh? The shadows loomed larger than ever, and dread filled the air like smoke. What awaited her on the other side? The darkness pressed against her, a tangible thing that sought to drag her down into a whirlpool of twisted despair. Sarah's pulse thudded in her ears, drowning out everything but the abyss that yawned before her. She could hear her own breath, shallow and frantic, as she fought back against the whispers of doubt. "Lily needs me," she murmured, forcing herself to remember her daughter's wide, trusting eyes. Each memory was a lifeline, pulling her back from the brink. But the shadows twisted them, showing her nightmarish visions of what might happen if she failed. Images of Lily trapped, crying for her, tormented by Mr. Thompson, clawed at Sarah's mind. "Believe!" the radiant figure urged, its voice coming through the storm of darkness. "You must believe!" Gritting her teeth, Sarah focused on the light within her, the flame that flickered stubbornly against the coldness. "I will not let him win!" she shouted, and for a moment the shadows flinched, a ripple of fear running through their ranks. The fissures in the ground widened, revealing writhing forms below. Sarah stumbled, but she caught herself, grounded by her resolve. She couldn't let them intimidate her. "You're nothing!" she yelled, and with that she unleashed another blast of light. The shadows wailed, swarming like hornets attacked. Mr. Thompson's grin twisted further, his icy laughter reverberating around her. "You're playing with forces beyond your understanding, Sarah. Your precious love is a feeble shield against your own weakness." A flicker of uncertainty crept in again. Was he right? The darkness around her thickened, snaking like a serpent, coiling tighter. Doubt clawed at her, whispering poisoned thoughts. "Love can't save you. You're not enough." "No!" Sarah screamed, shaking her head to banish the despair. She thought of Lily and the firm grip of her hand. She thought of the bedtime stories, the soft laughter, and the innocence that surrounded their moments together. In her chest, her heart surged with fierce determination, fueling her resolve. Somehow, she felt the energy gathering, a pulse that matched the rhythm of her heart. It was raw and radiant, an echo of a mother's love fighting against the consuming dark. "Lily!" she called again, and in her voice rang a melody of defiance, cutting through the shadows like a sword. The darkness howled, retreating as the light expanded, pushing against the black mass with primal ferocity. The radiance bloomed, bathing everything in warmth, dispelling the chilling despair that had blanketed her thoughts. Yet Mr. Thompson didn't yield. He stood unfazed, eyes gleaming with malevolence. "You think you can prevail? You will see the depths of your failure, Sarah. I will show you suddenly." The ground beneath her trembled violently, and the cracks widened further, spilling shadows that ebbed and flowed like ink. Sarah was teetering, caught in an unseen grip, the bottomless darkness threatening to swallow her whole. "Do not lose faith!" The figure persisted, its glow puncturing through the encroaching shadows. "Trust in the light!" Sarah closed her eyes for a beat, taking a steadying breath. Could she trust? Could the love tether her to reality and pull her out? Then she made her choice. With a primal scream, she leaped forward, trusting the light within her to guide her, to protect her. The shadows surged in terror, darkness retreating as her heart fueled the brilliance. But just when she thought she'd reached the other side, the ground shattered beneath her. As she plunged through the void, panic took hold. Where was Lily? What was waiting for her below? And then she heard it, a soft, desperate voice calling to her from the shadows. Mommy, was it a cruel trick? Did those shadows carry Lily's voice, or was it just a cruel fabrication of Mr. Thompson's twisted mind? The unknown loomed below, and Sarah's heart thudded in fear. Would she descend into darkness in pursuit of her daughter, or would she find a way back to the light? The choice spiraled, frantic and gruesome. And as she fell, a chilling laugh echoed around her, the haunting sound lingering ominously in her ears. What lay at the bottom of her plunge? Would it be salvation, or the end? A brutal silence followed Sarah as she floated in that inky blackness, her thoughts racing. The laughter hung like a storm cloud, suffocating her resolve. Everything had led to this moment: the smiles, the laughter, the warmth of her daughter's little hand. But the shadows clamored for her attention, promising safety and surrender, promising absolution for all her fears if she would just stop resisting, stop fighting. Mommy, the voice called out again, fragile and haunting, echoing through the void. It pulled at her heart, tightening the knot of dread in her chest. Was it really Lily? Or a cruel illusion crafted by Mr. Thompson? As she plummeted deeper, flashes of memories overwhelmed her. The time Lily scraped her knee, crying and reaching out for comfort. The late nights spent reading, her daughter's sleepy head resting against her shoulder. Those tender moments full of pure love roared inside Sarah, igniting her will and cutting through the shadows like a knife. "Lily!" she screamed, her voice reverberating against the void. "I'm coming!" The darkness twisted, closing in around her. Sarah felt its icy fingers brush her skin, attempting to steal away her warmth, to silence her spirit. But within her heart, a fire ignited, roaring to life as she thought of her daughter. "I refuse to lose you!" she cried. With that declaration, the light deep inside her surged, drowning out the void. Suddenly, she felt herself caught in a whirlwind. She fought against the gravity, the pull of despair trying to suck her into oblivion. She would not succumb. With every ounce of strength, she drew upon her love, focusing it with fierce determination. A radiant glow enveloped her, pushing back the darkness. In that moment, the shadows recoiled, hissing and screeching. "You cannot fight what you don't understand." Mr. Thompson's laughter echoed from everywhere, but Sarah stepped forward, steadying her resolve against that wretched sound. "No! Love is my strength!" she shouted defiantly, her voice breaking through the clamor. With a determined thrust, she concentrated on Lily, visualizing that sweet face, those innocent eyes staring back at her in trust. The shadows thrashed around her, their chaotic nature battling against her steady focus. "I am coming for you, sweetheart." With a mighty roar, she unleashed the light trapped inside her, manifesting it into a blinding beam that split the darkness in half like a lightning strike. The shadows wailed as they dissolved into wisps of nothingness, unable to reconcile the warmth of love with their cold existence. In the sudden stillness, Sarah felt the presence of something greater. It was there, an ancient energy swirling around her and pushing her toward the surface, toward her daughter. "Mommy!" The sweet call pierced through the silence. With renewed energy, her feet solidified against the ground below, and she propelled herself, guiding the light above the surface like a lighthouse guiding ships home. The shadows twisted in fury, clawing at her, but with each breath, Sarah embraced the love emanating from her heart, forcing it outward, pouring her very essence into the light. And then she saw her Lily, trapped, her terrified eyes mirroring Sarah's own fear. The chains of shadows snaked around her, squeezing tight. "No!" Sarah shouted, racing toward the glowing silhouette of her daughter. With weightless fury, Sarah unleashed the power from deep within. A spectacular burst of light erupted forth, breaking the chains with a resounding crack. The shadows howled in betrayal as they disintegrated into nothingness, unraveling at the seams. "Mom!" Lily rushed into her arms, warmth radiating between them, the touch igniting every corner of Sarah's heart. "I've got you! It's okay!" Sarah squeezed her daughter tightly, both trembling and crying. The light around them glittered, vibrant and restorative. As they began to lift from the ground, the remaining shadows shied away, their cries mingled with desperation and dread. Sarah held her daughter close, knowing they had conquered the malevolence threatening their lives. The radiant figure loomed beside them, its glow pulsing with a gentle warmth inviting calm. "We are free," it said, a soothing whisper. "You have reclaimed your strength, Sarah. You have chosen love." But the remnants of despair still lingered, whispering of the darkness that had plagued Crestwood Hills. Together, Sarah declared, holding Lily's hand tightly in hers, "We can heal this place. This is just the beginning." As the crowd of Crestwood Hills emerged from the shadows, their eyes wide with awe, the warmth of dawn broke across the horizon, casting light over the remnants of fear. Hand in hand, Sarah and Lily stepped forward to reclaim their town, their voices united in hope against the whispered fears of what had once held them captive. The shadows had lost their claim, driven away by the unmistakable power found only in love. "Let us go home," Sarah said, her voice firm and filled with promise. And as they walked together, the future sparkled brightly ahead, filled with laughter and light. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.